talking about Retro Warriors episode 404.
You almost messed it up again.
I did almost mess it up again. As always, I'm your host, Justin Baker, and as always, I'm joined by resident old bastard Chris Saturn.
Hello.
I messed it up because for 403 episodes, we put the number at the top of the notes.
Well, not for all of them, because we didn't always have numbers listed on the
on
notes.
episode 404,
we just had to guess.
Saturn wrote 404 hyphen episode not found as a joke, and I was like reading and laughing at that joke as I was trying to do the intro, and I borked it.
Yeah. Did you not read that part like before now?
No, I did. It was just still funny again. So I laughed again.
When I write the notes, half of me writing the notes is I got to put something dumb in here that Justin will have to read. And then I just forget to erase it later.
Yeah. No real housekeeping. Things are still
the same.
Kind of goofy. Yeah, they're the same as we said they were last week.
Yeah.
So things are not better. Let's just a weekly update. Things aren't better yet. Shit's still fucked.
Yeah. Shit's still fucked. That's the motto of our life.
That's the motto of 2023. At least shit's still fucked. We thought it would unfuck itself, but it has remained thus far fucked.
Yeah.
So
until we invent the unfucker, so we can unfuck it.
The unfucker sounds like the street version of an umpire, like in a baseball game.
Well, the umpire said it was fine, but the unfucker, he's angry about it.
Man, the unfucker, his match with Macho Man Randy Savage was especially strange. 80s wrestling was weird. I am the unfucker. I shall unfuck all of you.
It's the unfucker versus Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man. What a fucking weird wrestling gimmick is I'm the one with money.
Yeah. And the sad part is he probably wasn't even the richest person wrestling.
No, not even a little.
So
I remember his tag team partner was just a guy in a suit named IRS. That's weird. That's a weird
No,
time.
Saturn, that was an actual IRS agent. They're trying to audit him, but he would never leave the ring.
Oh, that must be it.
So they had to enter the ring with him, try to get him to sign these documents.
That's how they did forms back in the 80s.
Yeah, it was a different time with much more free-flowing cocaine.
That's true.
So, when head trauma and cocaine is just kind of the regular operating procedure, that's what you end up with.
Right. Anyway,
I've
on the note of head trauma and cocaine, how was your week, Justin?
I've been playing copious amounts of Vampire Survivors. Someone in the Discord turned me on to the fact that I could opt into a new engine, which is the game reprogrammed into Unity. And it does not reach sub-single-digit frame rates after like 45 minutes of playing the same level. It is the lowest I've seen it dip is mid-20s on like 35 minutes in, Queen Sigma, double accessory slots, yada yada, you know, the whole 9 yards. It's great, man. Nice. It's so smooth. It is really good. I remember I was playing it and I was kind of actually upset. I was like, man, I kind of wish I'd never started playing the game until now because this is so smooth. And then I learned that there's DLC coming. So now
very soon, some more DLC. I'm very excited.
But just lots of Vampire Survivors. I keep sitting down and telling myself I'm going to play something else. And then when I turn my deck on, Vampire Survivors is still booted up. And I'm like, well, I'll just play one round of this. And then I play 5 rounds of that. And then I go to bed.
Yeah, you play 5 rounds and then 3 hours have passed.
Beyond that, I've been reading. I learned how to read. And so I've been doing that a little bit.
Are you up to all the letters now?
Well, I mean, you don't really need some of them. There's not a lot of Z's used very oftenly. So you don't really need... that one.
Also, somebody replaced all your Z's with Z's. So,
so I don't even know what to do with them anymore.
We can't read them here in America.
Yeah, it's one of the. It's an English Z, so I can't. It looks different in my books.
No, it's a Canadian Z. It's not it's not an English Z. It's a Canadian one. So we can't do anything with that.
My daughter gets mad at me because I put lines through my Z's, my 7s, and my 0s.
Yeah, same here.
And she gets so mad. She's like, Daddy, that's wrong. That's not how you do it. I'm like, it's more clear.
There's so at work, because we get audited by federal agencies, we have to follow very specific note-taking and signature policies. Like anytime we sign something, we have to immediately follow it with an employee number, and we can only write in certain color ink and shit like that. And I learned that we are not allowed to put the cross through Z's or 7s or 0s. That is not permitted.
That's
by
weird.
Regulation.
That's weird because it makes them clearer to read.
Yes. Now,
it differentiates them from similar looking things.
Now, I do still put serifs on my 7s and my Z's, and they can't stop me from doing that because there's no rule about it.
This is your small font-based rebellion against the federal government. Well, I'm still putting serifs on my 7s. Normal people don't know what that means, so go ahead, we guess. We don't know.
Yeah, basically.
But yeah, lots of Vampire Survivors. I've been reading Michael Moorcock right now. His Elric books, which are just so good.
Yeah.
And I enjoy them greatly because I really like characters that are not heroes, that are just kind of like shitty people, I guess. I don't know. But I've been
reading a bunch of documentaries lately. I do that every now and then. Or not documentaries, biographies. That's the word I meant.
I was trying to figure out how the fuck you read a documentary.
No, I get in this mood where I just want to read biographies for like 6 months.
Yeah.
And I'll just pick up like 15 from my library app and just go through them. That's all I have read in months is just biographies for some reason.
My wife gave me so I got her a new Kindle for Christmas, and she gave me her old Kindle Oasis, which is waterproof and has a backlight. So all my books I've stolen, I can read on that, and it's very nice. It's a lot nicer than reading my old beaten, torn to shit pulp novels from the 70s that I got for $2 at half price books that smell like piss and sometimes pages fall out of them. So it has been a nice departure getting to read something in a nice readable format, and I can read in the dark.
Yeah.
But that's it. Mostly just Vampire Survivors and telling myself I need to play more games, and then going, Justin, what are you going to talk about on the show if you don't play video games? And then here I am.
Playing more Vampire Survivors.
Playing more Vampire Survivors. What have you been playing?
Resident Evil 4 came out again.
I've heard about that. Yeah.
It's good. I didn't intend on starting it immediately, but then my copy showed up, and I was like, well, I'll at least like pop it in to see how it is, and then I ended up playing through the first chapter twice, and starting the second chapter, and I really enjoyed it. And then I was like, no, I'm gonna finish Trails to Azure first, so I haven't gone back to it too much. But what I did play was pretty good. It is harder than the original in that I actually have to aim at things, and I'm not good at that.
Yeah.
However, on the other hand, you can parry everything, and as soon as you parry it, you can melee. And the melee works very similar to the original, where the moment that an enemy is staggered, Leon can roundhouse kick them and everyone else in the area.
Oh.
So you do still have that option to kind of crowd control, which is nice.
Right.
I did get chainsawed in half once.
Andrew did too. He was very upset.
Yeah. But that's the only time I've died. Other than that, I'm doing okay. I'm playing on normal difficulty because I almost went down to the easy mode, and it said for people who are unfamiliar with action games. But I am not unfamiliar with them. I'm very familiar. That's why I wanted to go on easy mode.
Yeah.
But that
because
wasn't.
You're familiar enough to know exactly what is in store for you.
Right. But I thought
I thought RE4 had the adaptive difficulty.
The original one did.
This one just
also
menus.
does. The original one had adaptive difficulty, but then when it was re-released on PlayStation, they added a difficulty selection. And that was basically your starting difficulty, and it would go from there.
Okay.
And this one does the same thing, where it's your starting difficulty, and then it still kind of adjusts the game a little bit based on how you're doing.
I don't know why I did it, but the other day I spent several minutes proving to Andrew that he made a bad decision buying the RE4 remake.
Oh, yeah?
By way of showing him that the original game on GameCube has 1 point higher on Metacritic. And I was like, you fool, you've bought an inferior title. I don't even remember why, other than I just wanted to be an ass. I think I succeeded.
I will say that the original was incredibly technically impressive in its time, which we did a whole fucking episode about it. We mentioned that. And this one, while still a very good game and an upgrade of that one in many ways, is not at all as technically impressive as that was for its time.
Well, it's also been re-released so many times and mildly upgraded so many times.
True.
It's
In fact, on my shelf, on my Xbox shelf, I have Resident Evil 4 right next to Resident Evil 4 because they both came out for Xbox. So, that helps.
We were talking in the chat, I bet you everyone was like, well, what are they going to do next? They can't do 5 or 6. And I'm like, I would not discount 5 because 5 sold incredibly well.
True.
They would absolutely remake 5 because it sold incredibly well.
I hope they do Code Veronica before 5, but I fear they're just going to jump straight to 5.
Yeah. I mean, I think we all kind of forget because critically 5 was kind of a disappointment.
Well, critically, it did pretty well too.
Did it? Yeah. It's just fan reaction, I guess.
Just fan reaction.
Like, I don't know anyone that was a Resident Evil fan at the time that liked 5. I knew some people were like, it's okay.
Yeah, that was my
but that was really the best I heard.
I mean, it didn't review anywhere near as well as 4 did, but 4 was an outlier in the series as far as reviews go.
Yeah, I mean, 4 was an outlier in the series in a lot of ways.
True.
So yeah, I think 5 is what we get next. That's because Capcom likes money.
They do like money.
I mean, look at all the different versions of the Street Fighters. That's proof that they like money.
Yeah. Maybe we'll get Resident Evil 4 Remake 2 Turbo.
Yeah, wouldn't that be great? You can turn on turbo mode.
and also Dulcine's there faster. For some reason.
I'll take it.
Just a player selection screen, and you have Leon, Dulcine, and Zangief.
Yeah. Let's do the news.
Okay.
First up, Final Fantasy 11 is entering maintenance mode after 20 years.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
Now, I knew the game was still running. I guess I just didn't realize it was getting actively updated.
Yeah, they were still updating. They weren't releasing like expansions or anything.
Right.
But they were still doing minor updates and fixes.
Well, I think they already hit the legally allowed maximum number of expansions at like 70 or something.
Yeah, it was like 108. It's just like the Stars of Destiny and Suikoden. They can only go up to 108. But it's impressive that it's had a run this long. And they're not shutting down the servers yet. They're just going into maintenance mode. So good on Final Fantasy 11 for lasting this long.
I always liked Final Fantasy 11 more than 14.
Weird.
And
is it because you like shitty games?
I know that it's not a very popular opinion.
Yeah.
But 14, like I've played a lot of MMOs, and 14 is a really good MMO in that same kind of design space as most other MMOs exist in these days.
Right.
You know?
Whereas 11 feels like a 20-year-old MMO.
11, it doesn't, I don't know, like 14, I'm trying to find a nice way to say that it just feels like World of Warcraft.
Yeah, well, 14 definitely built off of the style that Warcraft introduced.
I mean, like World of Warcraft came out and it was like, hey, this is what MMOs are now. Right. It redefined the genre. And 11 is just something totally different and weird.
Yeah, it's closer to the EverQuest era of MMOs.
Yeah. I always appreciated the design in 11 because it felt distinctly different from other MMOs that were coming out and just aping World of Warcraft, you know? And
it's older than World of Warcraft, so it makes sense.
True, yeah. I feel like, and I don't know if it's just because we didn't play it until then, but I felt like it had this weird arc where it came out and was kind of flying under the radar for a while, and I wonder if WoW coming out boosted interest in it, or if it was just that me and my friends just didn't notice it until
everybody I know
later.
Went from 11 into WoW. Like, they played 11 a lot, and then WoW came out, and they're like, see ya. And just moved over to WoW.
So I don't know. I've always really appreciated 11. I appreciated how weird it was. I liked that it was still menu based. Yep. Like, who the fuck in their right goddamn mind makes a menu based real time MMO?
I'll tell you, people who are making an MMO for a PlayStation 2.
I just have a lot of fond memories of 11. I enjoyed it more than 14. I played it more than 14. It was just weird. It's still weird. Go play it. It's weird.
I'm sad they canceled the offline version of it they were going to make, and I hope that idea comes back eventually.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, I have nostalgia for 11, and every now and then I will make an account and log in and then stand there and realize that nobody plays this game anymore and none of my friends play it, and there's no way in hell I'm going to convince anyone to play it, and I log out and I just lost $15.
My nostalgia for FF11 is from when I last played it in 05 or 06 or something, and just standing there in the desert with my looking for party flag up for like an hour.
Oh yeah. I remember playing 11. I'd never played an MMO, so everything was new to me. People walking up to me would be like, "Hey, do you want to party up?" And I'd be like, "I don't know what the fuck that means. I don't want to party with you, you freak." I remember one guy getting mad at me because I was playing a black mage and I kept pulling aggro, and he was like, "Stop pulling aggro," and I was like, "Pulling what? I don't know what this means."
Yeah.
So it was very much a learning experience for me. E3 is canceled.
Yep.
Probably for good.
Yeah. I'm a little sad about it this year because Konami was supposed to be there, and I was really hoping for some more information about Silent Hill, and now I don't get that, and I'm upset.
I mean, let's be honest, in the post-YouTube and social media era, trade shows like E3 are kind of vestigial.
Right. Now hardware trade shows I get, because you want to be hands-on with hardware. But E3 was never a hardware trade show. Like, sometimes there'd be some weird one-off hardware there, but for the most part, it was about the games.
Yeah. And so I don't know that any of us is shocked. I don't know that any of us is really going to miss it. The tone of this reminds me a lot of like when they ended Nintendo Power and people were all sad. And I'm like, none of you fuckers read Nintendo Power for the last 15 years. That's why it's shutting down. Right. Like, yeah, there were good times, but they have been long over.
Yeah. And even then, going back to the good times of E3 and looking at it, there's some cringy stuff that happened back then.
It feels less good now than it did at the time.
Yeah.
So I can't say I'm shocked. It's
the Tecmo booth was particularly thirsty back then.
Tecmo in general has always come off as kind of thirsty.
Yeah, at least since the Xbox era.
Yeah. So I doubt we see E3 pop up again. I will say that I hope this gives more room for some of the other trade shows and conventions
you mean like
and stuff.
Jeff Keighley's
and
Summerfest?
Not the VGAs. Please don't just make
not
the VGAs into
He also
E3.
has the Summerfest.
Oh God, I meant like GDC.
Nope. Jeff Keighley's Summerfest.
Oh,
the new E3, Justin. And it takes place at the same time as the PC Games Show.
What a wild world we live in, Saturn. Dolphin is coming to Steam. I didn't realize it wasn't on Steam already.
No,
so
it
cool.
is not on Steam.
Hopefully it brings over that nice interface that it has on Xbox.
Right, that'd be nice.
That'd be very nice. Steam is dropping support for Windows 7 and 8. 7 and 8?
7 and 8.
I don't know what word that was.
Hey,
but
you remember when we all upgraded to Windows 8?
Yeah, it was 8. It wasn't great.
I held off until 8.1.
So if you're still on Windows 7 and 8, first of all, why? Second of all, you'll need to upgrade if you want to play Steam games. Right. So enjoy. Rumors are pointing to a Skies of Arcadia remaster.
That'd be exciting.
Wasn't that on Dreamcast and GameCube?
There was a remake on GameCube, yes. Well, an upgraded version on GameCube.
Yeah. Well, that'll be cool. I know that's a pretty beloved game, and I feel like it's just been kind of sitting out there for a while.
Right.
Live Alive is coming to PS4, PS5, and Steam. So that's exciting.
That, yeah.
Australian government will classify all games featuring loot boxes with an M rating.
This is both good news and kind of nothing news. It's good that they are addressing the matter and they're paying attention. However, the M rating in Australia doesn't mean the same thing as the M rating in America.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And it doesn't actually restrict anything. The M rating over there is closer to our T rating. Because above M, they have an MA and an R rating.
So this means nothing.
It means that it will at least bring attention to it, but not any useful attention.
Because for people that don't know, in America, if a game is an M rating, you legally cannot buy it if you're under the age of 17.
Well, you can legally buy it, but most stores won't sell it.
Not legally at GameStop. They'll fire your ass. But I remember at GameStop they were extremely hardline about the 17-year-old thing. I assumed it was a law because they were so hardline about it. Interesting.
No. But in some countries, the highest rating does carry legal weight, and I think Australia is one of those countries where
I think the AO rating here does too, but stores don't carry AO games because why would they?
Well, there's no legal. It's not a legally endorsed rating system in the U.S., so there's no laws around it. But
so you're telling me I could open my own game store and sell hentai games to underage kids?
No, I think that might be considered pornographic material. Regardless of the rating on the box, there's still the existing laws about...
For the record, I don't want to. I'm just trying to clarify.
Yeah, you're going to help them kids start mainlining waifus at a young age.
Absolutely bad idea. Don't do that. Nor do I want to. I always assumed it was a law because when games... I don't know if EB was the same way because I know you worked at EB.
Yeah.
GameStop was hardcore about it.
When I was working at EB, it was before they had any strict laws or rules about it. It was all you should card for an M-rated game, but there is no penalty if you don't. But you and we will look bad if you don't do that.
At GameStop, it was policy that you card for it, and if a guardian is buying it for a child, you have to turn the box over and read all of the stuff that is in the game to the parent.
Yeah, GTA 3 is what caused us to start doing that. After GTA 3 came out, they told us anytime someone buys GTA 3 specifically, you must read the descriptors on the back of the box to them. And then that carried over to Vice City and San Andreas.
Yeah.
But any other M-rated game, they did not care.
Interesting. Yeah, no, GameStop was... I just always assumed it was a law. No. Huh. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Anyway, Vampire Survivors won Best Game and Best Game Design at the BAFTAs.
That's very. I'm happy for them because they absolutely deserved it.
They absolutely. I was playing it today and just thinking this is just the best game that's come out in years. Okay. What a great fucking game!
And the BAFTAs agrees with you.
Finally, after getting snubbed at the VGAs.
Well, who cares about the VGAs?
Snubbed, Saturn.
Yeah.
They were snubbed. They could have gotten that Doritos 3D Mountain Dew sponsorship, but no. Bubsy creator Mike Berlin has died at the age of 73.
Very sad.
And as we brought up in the chat, even though a lot of people want to shit on Bubsy as a franchise, the first game was pretty well enjoyed.
Yeah, it was a solid 7.5 out of 10.
It was Bubsy 3D that was the one that was like, what the fuck happened?
And I feel bad about it because it's inappropriate. But the moment that I saw that news, I saw Bubsy creator dead. My first thought was hearing Bubsy's voice going, "What could possibly go wrong?"
Oh, Jesus Christ!
Feels like the worst time to think that, but
no, it is. Oh no, it really is. He seems like he was a pretty fun guy. He probably would have laughed at that. And then finally, Sega tweeted that they were changing Sonic the Hedgehog, and everyone was waiting on pins and needles as they released The Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog.
And we should note that we're recording this the day before April 1st. So this was Sega's April Fool's joke, I'm pretty sure.
But it is a real functioning murder mystery game starring Sonic the Hedgehog characters.
Yeah. It looks like
free.
It looks like a Phoenix Wright kind of thing going on there.
Yes. So I don't...
But it's starring all the Sonic characters I don't know. Like
yes.
they've been around for a while. Like I remember some of them as far back as Knuckles Chaotix, but I've never learned beyond if they weren't in Sonic Adventure 1, I probably don't know who they are, and I still prefer to not acknowledge Big the Cat. So like anyone but Big the Cat from Sonic Adventure I know.
What's funny is that I was like, surely they don't actually kill Sonic the Hedgehog. The fuck they don't. They murder him. And in the game, you play as someone named Barry, and you can play this like weird Sonic minigame on a knockoff Game Gear called Barry's Dream Gear.
Cool, yeah.
It's just really fucking bizarre. It's so strange. But this is the kind of April Fool's jokes that I like.
Yeah.
That I think we want more of.
Well, you remember Sega released all those free games for their 60th anniversary on Steam.
Yes, Streets of Kamurocho and God, what else was there? There was some weird.
There's 8-Bit Bayonetta. There was there's several. I have them all still. There was the one that was the Company of Heroes one.
Yeah,
I don't remember what it is anymore. But anyway,
I don't remember either.
Yeah, I've got all of those. They're great.
Which brings us to our topic at hand.
Mm-hmm.
Which is building the perfect shmup. And I've been educated by people in the Discord that a lot of people don't like shmups.
Yeah, that's sad.
Yeah, and I want them to know that that's wrong. There's always one out there for you, right? There's got to be.
And it's Legendary Wings.
It could be. So for people that haven't noticed, we've been kind of changing our format a little bit because we record in 2-episode blocks.
Right.
And we've sort of been trying to time it so that our second episode in the evening is a little more free-form of a topic. And this is us kind of playing around with more free-form topics.
Yeah.
We've talked about it before many times that it's hard to get a whole episode out of shmups because usually the episode will be longer than playing the entirety of whatever game is in question. And sometimes we just want to talk about them. So this is us coming back around to wanting to talk about them again.
This is an excuse episode, is what we're saying.
Yes. So I don't really know how we want to handle scope on this. This is basically just us talking about our favorite things from shmups and what we do and don't want to see from future games. And maybe things design decisions that we feel it's kind of shocking they haven't fixed.
Right.
In the amount of time that has been allotted to them.
Yeah.
Which is a long time.
And that's not to say there's been no evolution in the genre, because there has.
Certainly.
But some of that evolution has been in discarding perfectly good working things that we had 30 years ago.
Yes. And so let's get into this. You did break this up into weirdly named segments that are all named after the upgrades in Gradius.
Correct. Yeah. I just looked at the Gradius power-up bar. I was like, I'll just write all that out and see if I can make that into things. And I couldn't.
And it's a perfect thing because Gradius is not high on my list of preferred shmup franchises.
How dare you?
Because I feel like there are better games that do things much better, and I feel like Gradius is one of those franchises that makes some pretty grievous design mistakes and perpetuates them.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. I love Gradius, but it's flawed, and they've yet to fix it. Well, granted, they also haven't made a new game in 20 years, so
yeah, but they made a bunch of them before they quit making them for 20 years.
Yeah, like 5.
There were 5 of them.
Yeah, and some spinoffs.
Let's talk speed. Speed up.
Yes.
Should it be fast? This is a great question about shmups.
Yeah. Should it, Justin?
And I feel like speed is dependent on density.
Yeah.
And whenever we're talking fast shmups, I always want to talk Musha.
Yeah.
Because Musha is very fast.
Yeah.
It's very fun.
Mm-hmm.
But more than that, it's mostly just a fast scrolling background.
Yeah. So it makes you feel like you're going fast without,
but you're not.
Yeah, but the other like objects aren't going so fast that you struggle to avoid them, and that's much better than the alternative.
So I don't know if I just want the illusion of speed or if I really want actual speed.
Yeah.
And I noticed that any game that here's a thing I dislike. Mm-hmm. And it's a problem I have with Gradius. Is that in some Gradiuses, in some Gradii, I feel like there are some levels where you have to take some speed ups.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're not going to make it through there.
Yeah, because you can't avoid some of the stage hazards, much less the enemies, if you don't have 1 or 2 speed ups.
And I hate that. It's the lamest power up. You want to get cool power ups. You want your power ups to feel cool. Picking speed up feels fucking lame. Mm-hmm. Second of all, everyone has their speed comfort zone, right?
Yeah.
For me, it's 2 upgrades. If I upgrade more than twice, I'm immediately going to smash into the fucking wall.
Depends on the game. Because some games have very gradual upgrade systems. Yeah. And in those, I can usually do much more than that. But it really just depends on what their upgrade curve is like.
So I like what my preference is, and I can't remember which game did this, is I like the ones where you have a secondary button that will adjust your speed between 3 settings.
Yes.
And I want to say, like, fuck, what game did that?
Is
it Thunder Force?
Maybe.
I don't know. But that's what I like.
For some reason, I was thinking Castle Shikigami might have done that as well.
Maybe. But I've seen it around.
Maybe
this
I should
variable
have played a
speed.
before this episode.
That's ridiculous. You've played them before.
Oh, yeah, right.
So that really, as far as speed goes, I want fast scrolling, but I want adjustable speed that is not power up dependent. I want it to be something I can change.
It'd be nice to have just like a run button that you could either press, hold, or toggle when you want to go faster, like in any other game.
Yeah, absolutely. I would be
even if I have to have a little fuel gauge for it. Then it could be another strategy kind of thing.
I'm not a fan of gauges that I have to watch what level they're at when I'm playing a shmup.
It depends on how generous it is for me. Like,
okay.
Like if it's enough that I only need to check it a few times a stage, I'm fine with that.
If it's a gauge that powers up, and then when it gets all the way up, I get some kind of ability, I like that. But if it's a gauge that I have to watch how much of it I've depleted, I don't like that.
What was I playing? Oh, it was one of those ancient SNK ones, Vanguard, I think, where there is a fuel gauge, but it refuels every time you hit an enemy. Mm-hmm. And so I basically ignored it because I was killing enough things that it never even dropped to halfway. Yeah. I don't mind that because then it makes me feel like I'm cheating the system, even though obviously the game is stacking it in my favor.
Yeah. On the note of speed, you bring up the point of instant respawn. Mm-hmm. How do we feel about instant respawn?
I like it.
I like it too. And not only do I like it, it's essential. And it brings me to another major issue I have with death in general in shmups, which is the death spiral.
Well, before we get to the death spiral, when you say instant respawn is essential, what kind of instant respawn do you mean? Do you mean like just quickly gets back into the game at the very recent checkpoint, or do you mean immediately respawns in exactly where you are?
I want to get put back on the screen and given like 2 seconds of invincibility.
Yeah. I like that one, but I do have to admit that it completely destroys any story immersion.
I don't know that I've ever felt story immersion in a shmup in my entire life.
But what about Vic Viper's daring escape with Lord British from the Bido Empire?
The only immersion I've ever felt is in Fantasy Zone. Because I care so much about Opa Opa because he can cry.
Yeah, he is adorable.
It's so sad. He cries. I want to talk about the death spiral because this is a massive problem I have with shmups.
Yeah, and Gradius is possibly the worst at this.
So, for people that don't know, a death spiral is when you make it to a later level with a full suite of power-ups because you've carried your power-ups between levels and you haven't died, but then you die, and starting from scratch in those later, stingier levels means that you basically cannot progress.
Right.
Because the later levels are less laden with power-ups.
And they're more difficult.
It puts you in a situation where you're spiraling.
Yeah.
And there's a couple fixes. One is, let me keep a portion of my power-ups. I think Raiden does this. Yeah. I think something else does this. Where when you die, it pops up. I think Musha does this, doesn't it?
Some of the soldier games might do it as well.
So when you die, they take all the power-ups you've collected and they spit out like a few of them. So when you come back, you can, if you're quick, you still got to be quick. It still takes some skill.
Salamander
you can pick them back
does
up.
that too.
Yes, which is why Salamander is so much better than Gradius.
Salamander's just great to begin with.
So I want to pick up a portion of my power-ups, and this issue has been solved for decades. And yet, shmups still embrace these death spiral designs. And I understand that it's a shmup, and if I could just beat the whole game in an hour one time on my first try, then maybe I wouldn't want to keep playing it. My answer to that is come up with better modes and come up with better design choices that make me want to keep playing. But I get it. But doing it this way is dumb. It's dumb.
Yeah.
And it's why Gradius sucks.
Unless you cheat. And then Gradius goes back to being okay. Because
Except Gradius is even meaner because in some of them, depending on the cheat you use, it kills you.
That's true. Gradius 3 is really good about killing you. But in some of the Gradius games, if you save your cheat until after that first death, it basically just lets you resume from full power. And that's the only way I can play Gradius, to be fair. And I enjoy Gradius when I can power back up like that, because otherwise the game is basically impossible after like the second stage. If you die, you're out.
Oh yeah, I mean, certainly there are better players than us out there that I'm sure you know, can do it with no speed upgrades or whatever, but
I can't.
I can't either.
Yeah.
But I for a game that demands that you be upgraded later on and then puts you constantly get caught in these situations. And the other thing, really, this isn't building the perfect shmup. This is let's bitch about Gradius. but my other problem with Gradius is that Gradius always front loads all of its power-ups. The beginning of every level, usually if it's going to have a bunch of power-ups, it's in the beginning of the level.
Right.
Which means that if I don't know, I don't like it.
Some shmups, when you do die, they've got the checkpoints throughout the level, and they will set it so that if you respawn at a checkpoint, then a power-up thing shows up that wouldn't have ordinarily.
Yeah, I feel like R-Type does that.
Yes, R-Type is the one I was thinking of. That always seems to give you a chance to get back to powered up pretty quickly. Not always immediately, but pretty quickly after a respawn. It's at least a little more generous than Gradius is, but R-Type also has less power-ups than Gradius does.
Our next category is missile. I don't know what to make of these.
Yeah, I was expecting you to just wipe it and make a more.
No, I kept all of the silliness. But the first question you bring up is weapons, main weapons,
non-main weapons, actually.
Non-main weapons, non-additional weapons.
Yeah, your secondary and tertiary weapons.
So, I always want whatever is going to fill my screen the most. So if there is a Vulcan cannon, I use that. If there are homing missiles, I use those.
I will be honest. For my first hour of a shmup, I'm the same way. I want the big weapons. I want the ones that fill up the most area, and I want the homing weapons. After that first hour, I want to play with all the weird weapons. I want the weirdest weapons, and I want to see how weird they can be. Like, there's a weapon in Radiant. I think it's the B and C weapon, where it just has like little circles that go around your ship and what look like radar laser beams, and anything that lands in a circle, it has like lightning arcs at it.
Yes.
I like that weapon because of how fucking weird it is. That is not a standard shmup weapon, and I appreciate that.
I find it strange that you've not played a lot of Jamestown. And that is a game that has a shitload of weird weapons.
Oh man, I need to.
There's a ton of different ships, and they've got some weird ass weapons that some of them you're like, I don't even know how to use this. I can't even figure this out. It's so bizarre. I'm always homing missiles. I always want to go homing missiles on things.
Yeah.
If homing missiles are an option, I take that every single time.
Yeah.
Even though I know that the axiom in shmups is the easier it is to shoot something and hit something, the less damage it's going to do. Yeah. Which is annoying.
It is. And it's always weird when there's an exception to that. When a game deviates from that and lets me be overpowered, it almost feels like I'm cheating.
Yeah, I feel like Raiden gets that way with me.
Yeah.
Because it's got that, it's not really homing, but there's like that sticky laser that comes out and it's sort of pseudo homing and it arcs between things. And when you power that thing up all the way, you're like, this feels unfair. Like I feel bad for the enemy force here because I'm just annihilating them and I don't have to move.
Right.
Let's talk bombs.
Yes.
How do you feel about bombs?
I'm not so going back to even the 8-bit era when you've got those screen clearing bombs, like in your Contras or whatever. I've never been a fan of that because I end up in the situation where I hoard them in case there's an emergency, and then I never recognize when the emergency is happening, and if I do, I don't remember that I have them, so I never use them. I prefer
Go ahead.
something closer to Radiant Silvergun where it is a gauge that I can fill up. And that way, as soon as it's full, I know I can blast it and recharge it pretty quickly because I know there will be more as opposed to a normal screen clearing bomb where I have to hope that I pick one up.
Yeah, I put the same thing. My favorite innovation here is the recharging bomb or ability button. Crimson Clover does it over time as you defeat enemies. The vaunting ability in Jamestown does that as well. And on that note, I don't particularly like bombs as much as I like, I know I'm just harping on Jamestown again, but vaunting in Jamestown is great. It puts a bubble around you. Bullets can't penetrate it.
That's
so
fair.
in addition to, basically, yeah. So in addition to you getting, to do more damage because you can get right up in something's face because you've got your vaunting, it also lets you relax for a second.
Right.
And sometimes shmups get so intense that I just have to pause the game and just like breathe for a minute.
I think
and relax my neck muscles.
Right, invincibility is one of the best power ups you can get in a shmup, even if it's just for like 5 seconds or 10 seconds. Yeah. And so few of them have it as an option that it is shocking to me.
So I like that. Like you're saying, this creates an environment where you feel like it's smart to use bombs frequently and as soon as you get them.
Yeah.
Still strategically, but instead of hoarding them to just die later and then lose them, and then you're like, well, now I have no bombs, or I'm down to 3 bombs, but I had 9 bombs.
Yeah, that was what I call 1942 syndrome.
Yeah, I do want to talk about main weapons, and I don't know if you want to do that in.
I think I put that in the laser section.
All right, then we'll wait.
All right,
because you brought up the point of multiplayer in the notes.
Yeah.
And multiplayer is a thing. It's a thing in shmups.
Most of them do the take turn style multiplayer.
Yes.
And I see that as useless.
Yeah, well, at that point, you're like, why don't we just fucking take turns anyway? Like, we're both cognizant human beings. We can just hand the controller back and forth.
This is not 1984. We're not worried about who's going to put our initials in the high scoreboard.
But more importantly, you bring up the point of online multiplayer.
Yes.
Online multiplayer.
Online.
And as soon as I read that, it occurred to me that it's actually kind of shocking that online multiplayer is nearly completely absent from the shmup genre as a whole.
Right.
And if we can do fighting games online, which also require intense, rapid inputs, then surely we can figure out the shmup conundrum, right? Like we have the technology
it's just
to do this.
Yeah.
And I can't even think of a shmup with online multiplayer. Like, not one can I think of.
It's frustrating.
There has to be one. There has to be at least one.
And I hope that everyone tells us what it is. I hope we get 1,000 messages. Hopefully they're all different games and not all the same game.
It's honestly kind of weird that there's not like a Mugen for shmups.
Right.
I don't like what's the big design hang up here? And I think really the answer a lot of the time is that a lot of shmups these days are smaller indie stuff.
Right.
They're labors of love. I mean, my favorite one of all time is Crimson Clover, and it's made by one person.
And there's also been a big push towards the bullet hell genre in recent years. And
True.
And that does it is challenging to effectively do a multiplayer bullet hell because there's often very little room to dodge, and if both players are cramming in there, it can make it more difficult for both of them.
It's just weird that it's not more. But I mean, on the bullet hell note, and I think this is kind of interesting to point out, is that as much as we're both fans of this genre and we've talked about it so much on the show, really, we've probably talked about shmups as a genre more than any other genre.
I think it was our first episode, didn't we?
The first one we did that big multi-part episode where we covered every PC Engine shmup. We've covered a lot of individual stuff. We've done Gradius. We've done Salamander.
I think on the first episode, didn't we?
Yes, we did. We did Fantasy Zone not long ago, didn't we?
Yeah,
we've done a shitload of shmups.
We do like shmups.
And I forgot what my original point was.
Something about bullet hell.
So bullet hell. Neither one of us really likes bullet hell games.
I enjoy some of them, but I'm not good at them, so I don't like them that much.
And I always find it fascinating games that like, I think Crimson Clover is probably my favorite shmup of all time.
Yeah.
And it looks a lot like a bullet hell game.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot when you look at it.
I've noticed that a lot of the shmups lately, even if they aren't bullet hell, when you're just looking at the screenshots, they appear to be.
Yes, but they all give you these different abilities that basically let you the game within the game is mitigating having to do actual bullet hell segments,
right? Similar to Ikaruga, where you would do the color swap to just absorb the shots.
Except that I hate that in Ikaruga. It is my least favorite part, and I'll talk more about that later.
All right.
But like Jamestown and Crimson Clover both do that, where they look really bullet helly, but they both give you ways to basically mitigate the amount of bullet hell segments you're having to sit through.
Yeah.
And that makes a huge difference for me. And it's like you said, it's interesting that just looking on paper at the genre, it looks like they're still here. Mm-hmm. But bullet hell kind of has fallen out of favor. Like the real classic hardcore bullet hell stuff is kind of seems a little less popular.
I think it's just that what's out there is becoming more fair.
Maybe. Yeah. Very maybe.
Maybe it's because they're not trying to get quarters out of us.
Let's talk laser.
Yeah. Let's talk laser. The American Gladiator.
This is my hot take. Lasers suck.
What?
I dislike lasers in shmups. I never want to have a laser. They suck, and ripple and wide shots are superior to the laser.
Hold on. First of all, the Gradius laser is fantastic. And it is better than the ripple shot because it covers more of the screen for longer.
I like the ripple.
Yeah, well, it's all right. You're allowed to be wrong. That said, in most games, I would prefer the larger shots. I agree.
Mm-hmm.
But in Gradius specifically, the laser is fantastic. But anyway, main weapons, big weapons.
Yes.
I generally will go with whatever the equivalent of a Vulcan cannon is that fires the fastest and has the largest spread. Usually
it's this I don't want to call it a rock, paper, scissor thing, but it's this three option. You've got a big wide Vulcan gun.
Yeah.
You've got something kind of in between the width and precision of a Vulcan and laser, and then you've got a very precise laser.
Right.
Now obviously every game plays with this differently,
right.
You know. But that's kind of the basic breakdown.
Right.
Some of them add on little things like little satellite ships that may have extra shots, and like Raiden does famously, it's sort of homing laser. But the traditional breakdown is Vulcan cannon, laser, and then something green. Because for whatever reason, the one in between is always very frequently green.
Yeah, it's weird. Green is the weird power-up, almost always.
Yeah, it's always the strange one.
Yeah.
As far as power-ups in general, I get a little torn on them. I like power-ups in games. I'm on record as being someone who will play a game just because it has cool power-ups.
Right.
I like them being something I pick up on the screen, not something where I have to upgrade it from a menu or bottom of the screen or Gradius style or whatever.
It does feel more satisfying that way.
But at the same time, games like Crimson Clover don't have power-ups.
Yeah. Same with like Radiant Silvergun.
You've just got the big overdrive ability. And yeah, Radiant it is another one where you've just got kind of your weapons, abilities. Yeah. And I think sometimes I kind of prefer that, because I just don't have to be bound. Because really, power-ups are that double-edged sword. If it's on the screen, you're going to get killed trying to grab the damn thing.
True. You know what I would like to see? I would like to see a shmup that has some RPG-style power-ups or abilities. Like, I want a shmup where I can poison the enemy. And do
like that.
Damage over time.
That'd be cool.
And do other, like, status ailment kind of things. I think that would be interesting.
I really just want something to take the Guardian Legend with its million billion different weapons and put that into a shmup. Let me have a pause menu where I can just go pick different weapons in an RPG.
Yeah.
Give me an equipment screen.
Yeah, give me the Mega Man shmup where I can get new weapons for killing bosses and then just swap to them at any time in the next level.
Oh, that would be so cool.
Right?
I would enjoy that greatly.
That's a weird way to say that.
But I do prefer picking them up. Darius, Salamander, all these games. Star Soldier, all these games where I'm picking my power-ups up, Raiden. I like that. I like Fantasy Zone's approach of the shop, which is kind of the in-between between having like an inventory or just picking them up, where you do really kind of get to choose your loadout.
My biggest problem with Fantasy Zone is how quickly they evaporate.
Yes, the timer sucks.
Yes.
Which is why the M2 ports on 3DS, one of the first things you can do is like quadruple the length you have your things.
Yeah, I've never been a big fan of any game where the powered up weapons that I can get have either limited shots or limited time.
Are the 1943 games are limited shot, right? Aren't they ammo based?
I thought,
or are they permanent?
I think they're permanent until you're hit, if I remember right.
Maybe 1943 is also one of those weird games with a fucking health bar.
Yeah,
which I go back and forth on. I like the accessibility of a health bar, but it seems to also open up the door to meaner design choices, where I kind of don't. You know what I mean? Like, I'd rather it be one hit and I die, and then you don't design it so mean.
I also have a bad habit of mixing up 1942 or 1943 with Sky Shark, because I played a lot of both of those back in the day, and they're very similar games where it's, biplane versus other biplanes.
Yeah, I kind of really all of the 1940XX on Neo Geo was kind of the only one of those I really loved, but even that was such a deviation from traditional biplane versus biplane action.
There was another one that was a CPS2 arcade game that Capcom put out. I thought it was 19XX. I think that is CPS2, not Neo Geo.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, because Capcom didn't support Neo Geo.
I don't know what I'm thinking of then.
It could be Strikers that was on Neo Geo.
Yes, Strikers. Yeah. Because Strikers has a secondary title, and it's like Strikers 1945 or something like that. And so I always mix it up with 1940XX, which are both very good games. Both of them are good.
Indeed.
But yeah. I guess we're kind of already transitioning into options, which is accessibility and things like that.
Yes.
And shmups are decades behind when it comes to accessibility options, including very basic accessibility options.
Right.
Like, proper resolution support.
Yeah.
Or colorblind modes. Right. Or, any of the basic... Really, if I open a shmup on my PC and it has just an options menu at all, I'm like, oh, I'm in for a treat. Right? How exciting this is.
It's not just a mobile port. Now, one thing I thought about was slowdown, which is something you're seeing more in accessibility menus in games, like in Celeste and Horizon Zero Dawn. And it started to make me think, slowdown plus a bullet hell, at least in single player mode, I think that could be a really interesting mechanic where if like when you're getting close to getting shot, it like slows down and slightly zooms in on you to give you a chance to dodge so that you feel more badass. But then I also think it could get really tiring if it is a full bullet hell and there are just thousands of bullets.
Because it would just be constantly,
So I maybe like every time you do that perfect dodge, like you become invincible for a couple of seconds or something. But I was thinking about mechanics like that and how we could add modern accessibility takes to the shmup genre, because the shmup genre has completely ignored all of these modern accessibility takes.
Right. Well, the shmups were kind of one of the original good genres to begin with.
Yeah,
you know?
Unfortunately.
I do think like a slowdown ability would work good with like a clutch button. Maybe you've got a recharging bar of slowdown and you can hold this button and then it slows things down for you and then you can kind of navigate around and you can just go into the accessibility options and tweak how long that bar lasts or how quick it recharges. But just some basic things like the idea that we can't make the bullets in a shmup any color of the rainbow we please feels almost hostile toward people with visual impairments,
and I feel like I've
blindness.
Seen this before in a game where it did have that specific colorblind option. I can't remember which game it was. I want to say it was a Q-em-up, like a Cotton or something. Yeah, that had specifically bullet color controls. But off the top of my head, I can't remember exactly which one.
Yeah. Let's talk question mark, which is other stuff, other power-ups, other game modes, other styles that we want to see more of. I want to see more of the shit in Air Zonk where I turn into other things. Yeah. Turn me into some weird shit. That's what I want. I want to turn into a weird cow or a tiny version of Zonk or whatever. I want to give me the weird stuff.
I want to see, because a friend of mine who was one of those chronic liars like we were talking about in the pre-show, he had insisted that there was an arcade game that he had played where it was like a shmup, but anytime your ship got damaged, your little dude could parachute into a different ship and just take it over.
That sounds awesome.
And it sounded so awesome, and I was so angry that it never existed, because especially if the different ships like control differently in any way, that sounds the most awesome. So somebody make that game that liar made up 25 years ago.
Yeah, I you know, one of the earlier shmups, had the right idea, which is Galaga. Which is, I want to be able to get more ships and attach them to my ship in a big stupid chain of ships.
Yeah, there's that opening bit in Nier Automata in the shmup section where for a brief second you've got like a whole fucking platoon with you and they all start getting shot down.
Yes.
I want to play some of that game where I have a whole fucking crew of ships. And like maybe I lose some or maybe I get some back later. Like I save them from the enemy. Give me that game.
Yeah, there's a lot of really cool design space that it just feels like we've started exploring it.
Yeah.
But nobody ever expounds upon it. There's these ideas like getting the second ship in Galaga, like turning into different shit in Air Zonk, like all the weird shit Nier Automata did. Right. But then nobody does anything with it. We just keep going back to like, here's another fucking Xevious, which while I'm on the subject of Xevious, let me complain that any shmup that has a second ground layer that I need to use a different attack for can fuck off.
Like Legendary Wings?
Like Legendary Wings. I do not want to have to worry about firing bombs on a separate plane.
I will say, in the 80s when I first saw that was the coolest thing.
Oh, totally impressive for its time, but man,
it is such an annoying gameplay style, especially considering it makes you like aim it in advance.
Yes.
Because of like the speed at which your bomb drops or whatever dumb bullshit they want to implement.
Yeah, you got to put the targeting reticle on it. And it's like, that's not a thing for any other enemy in this game. Why is it a thing for shit on the ground?
Yeah, the implementation is just so poor. If somebody could find a way to make that multi-planar attack not shit, please do that. Yeah. I'm interested in what that would be. But I don't know what it would be.
I would be okay if maybe instead of dropping a bomb, you pressed a button and your ship just dropped down. And then you could still shoot it like normal and then go back up. But then obviously you would just go to whichever plane had the less enemies, so they'd have to fill it up with tons of enemies and shit. And then it would not be enjoyable.
Because this is the 21st century and our games are in the 3 dimensions now. What if we could just use our right analog stick to point our ship up or down.
Saturn, this has gotten far too radical. We've gone too far here.
Yeah.
3 dimensions?
I know.
I don't know how you expect this. We don't even have options menus in most of these games. I don't know what you're smoking over here.
Maybe in the 22nd century.
So I want to see more. The most recent Darius game.
Darius Burst.
Yes. That one has like this procedural generation mode.
Yeah.
Where it just kind of creates infinite levels.
Yeah.
That you can just sit down and play over. And one of the biggest design problems of shmups over the years has been that they're pretty short, and when you get good at them, even the long ones you can beat pretty fast in the grand scheme of video games. Because just by default, they're games that go quickly. They, they're kind of, they only have one speed, and it's fast.
Yeah.
And I don't know why that wasn't like an aha moment for shmup design, where every other company went, oh my God, you can just take all your different design elements, put them in a big hat, yank them out, and call it a level, and put some random variation of an enemy at the end of it, and have infinite gameplay forever.
Right?
And Gradius Burst also does it in a really, Darius Burst also does it in a really good, cool way, where it structures it like full sets of levels.
Yeah.
It's just it's such a cool idea.
Wait, where is our super shmup maker?
Right? Where is it? Now, I made a bunch of shmups in Mario Maker.
Yeah, just using like the Lactu Cloud or whatever.
Yep. Yeah. You could just give yourself that, or I think you could get in Bowser's little helicopter thing.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You get in that and give you a fire flower and make shmup levels. Yeah. Like, where is our super shmup maker?
Right.
Okay? What's going on? And I know that the people making Darius have the licenses for shitloads of shmup stuff, because their DLC for that game was extensive and included like everything.
Well, Darius is made by Taito, who's owned by Square Enix.
Yeah, well, there you go. Square Enix, what the fuck are you doing? Get on top of these things. Darius Burst Chronicles Saviors. That is specifically the one I'm talking about. Which, to be fair, that game has a lot of innovation in the shmup space.
Yes.
A whole lot of innovation is there. Really, really cool stuff. Lots and lots of gameplay. I know that picking the game up with the DLC is like exorbitantly expensive.
Yeah, that's the problem with it.
Like right now I was looking, and the Shmup All-Stars bundle, which says it includes everything. I want you to guess how much it costs.
$109.
$213.14. Oh no, I'm sorry. Excuse me. I'm so sorry. This is just a big giant bundle of shmups. This is all the games that includes, because
Darius Burst has a bunch of cameos.
Because Darius Burst has DLC for all these, so that includes all the cameo games.
Okay, all right.
That's less of bullshit.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Slightly less, but it's still, it's like 60, 70, 80. I don't know, how much is it? Let me come here.
$118.86.
There you go, $118.86, which is not much less than $213. You could almost buy every game featured in this game for not much more money.
Right.
But I'll say this, if you can ever pick up Darius Burst Chronicles Saviors on sale, fucking awesome.
Yeah, I got
awesome shmup.
I got the physical for my PS4, and man, it's a fun game.
It's so cool. It was on Vita.
Yeah.
It's got ultra widescreen mode. It's awesome, man.
I don't think Taito was involved in the actual development of the game. I think Square Enix just
Pyramid.
Kind of licensed it. Yeah.
Pyramid is the developer listed here.
Yeah.
But I'm off on a tangent now.
Yeah, because it was just so good.
But yeah. So if I were to pick a genre of shmup that I want to go away, and this is a difficult one for me because I have purported to like these games, I don't like puzzle shmups. Shmups where it's like, oh, hey, it's a shmup, but really it's a puzzle game, like Ikaruga.
I love that. Oh, man, that's my favorite.
I don't want that. None of that.
I like any of them that challenge me in a way other than just dodging bullets. Because
I want to dodge bullets.
I like dodging bullets, but I've got a lot of games that already let me do that. So if they can also like give me an alternate option. Like still leave the dodging bullets as an option, but give me a different way that I can do it where I can feel like I cheated the system somehow. Yeah. I'm all in favor of that.
Yeah, not for me. What I would love to see, and because we're kind of, I guess we have bosses to cover, but I would love to see something like Darius Burst.
Yeah.
I would like to see Darius Burst, but I would like to see some kind of RPG something layered on top of it.
Yeah.
A lot of the design decisions here are awesome. They solve a lot of problems with shmups.
But Justin, where will Darius Burst's owner Square Enix find somebody that knows how to make RPGs?
Gee willikers. I don't know. Maybe they could team up with Disney and put Goofy in it or something. I hear he's an RPG character.
Yeah, they'll call it Darius Burst 398 over 14 days.
We have to talk bosses.
Yeah.
Another area where Gradius fails. Because it has
you don't want to shoot the core that one time over and over and over again.
Lame ass bosses.
Salamander has some good bosses.
Salamander is fuck. God, I love Salamander. Man, I love it. Yeah, I always go on about how Crimson Clover is like my go-to shmup. Salamander's so good too.
It really is. I'm so glad that you have turned around on Salamander because when I first met you thought it was just Life Force on NES.
I'd only ever played Life Force, and you were like, no. Not only is this a shit game, this is a shit version of this game.
Yeah.
So I like big bosses. I like big screen filling bosses.
Big bosses, and you cannot lie.
I cannot lie. I like multi-stage bosses.
Yeah.
Shmups are kind of the only area where the bigger, more complex, more ridiculous, more multi-stage the bosses get, the more I enjoy them.
Right.
Anywhere else, I'm like, just fucking die already, please. I've killed you 7 times, and you keep growing robot arms and weird shit.
You know what my pet peeve is with shmup bosses?
What's that?
Is when they go away before I'm done destroying them.
Oh, yeah. They'll start blowing up and they disappear or some shit.
Yeah, Treasure is real bad about this, where they'll let you, like, quote, finish the boss, and then afterwards immediately tell you only destroyed 40% of it. And I'm like, well, then fucking bring it back.
Bring it back.
I was not done.
You also notate pacifist modes. I don't like those.
I don't mind them if it lets me play the entire game pacifist. If I can play the entire game pacifist, sure. But
like if it's feasible.
Yeah, but if it's just the bosses, no, I want to blow it up.
I do feel like if we've done nothing else, because there are some shmup detractors out there, and I want to talk directly to those people and say that if you've only ever played Gradius,
now, first of all, if you've made it this far in the episode,
if you've made it this far, then man, you got a lot of tolerance for something that you don't like. But if you've only ever played Gradius, and that's kind of because I feel like there's a good contingent of people out there that played Gradius because
or 1942.
Or 1942. If these like biplane shmups and Gradius adjacent games
R-Type
are the only ones that you've played, R-Type is another big one.
Yeah.
Then you are missing a wide world of shmups that those are some of the worst representatives of.
Yeah, we didn't even get to stuff like Raystorm and Ray Crisis and all that.
Oh man, there's so much.
Yeah.
There's so much cool stuff.
Yeah.
Please go play some better shmups.
Right.
There are so many.
Salamander's right there.
Saturn and I have done, 70 episodes on shmups, and he still likes Gradius, but is openly admitting that it makes terrible design decisions basically from end to end.
Yeah. It's except for Gradius 5. I think Gradius 5 fixes a lot of them.
5 is
perfectly, but it fixes a lot of them.
There's so much out there, so much cool stuff, so many fun things, and this isn't even us touching on cute 'em ups, touching on the weird genre of like magical girl shmups. There's a lot of I think weird shit.
This one we were doing more of a broad overview of actual design choices rather than the visual style.
Right.
But really, all these things we've discussed should apply to all of those too.
Yes, absolutely.
Though Q-em-ups, I feel, are a little bit better at accessibility than most of them are.
I do want to make recommendations for people that are like, all right, you've convinced me. I listened to you talk for over an hour for some reason about this genre that I don't like, and I want you to sell me something.
Yeah.
My first thing, I would say, pick up Jamestown.
Mm-hmm.
It's such an easy introduction. It's very fun. It's got a lot of different gameplay. It's pretty hard. If you're wanting something that's just kind of infinitely replayable, pick up Darius Burst Chronicle Saviors on sale, because it goes on sale on Steam, the whole package, and it's like $35 and you get everything.
Right.
Don't pay the $130 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Because it's cool, but it's not quite that cool. And then after you've played those and you say, all right, maybe there is something here that I like, go buy Crimson Clover World Explosion, because holy shit, man. What a game! Yeah. What a game! What a good game! Do you have any specific recommendations, where you would want people to go?
Have we mentioned Salamander in this episode?
I don't know if we did, but Salamander is a great game. For the love of God, play the PC Engine version of Salamander.
Oh man, it's so good. And also, if you want to play Gradius, play the PC Engine version of Gradius, because it is much, much more playable than the other home ports of that time, and also it is more forgiving than the arcade version of the game.
I feel like we've said it before, but NES Gradius is kind of the worst Gradius game.
Yeah, no, there's Commodore 64 Gradius.
Oh, no.
But NES Gradius is not a great port, and it's also a very mean port, so don't play that one. Also, Parodius on PC Engine or Saturn are pretty solid.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Parodius is also... I feel like Parodius is one of those things that, like, I want everyone to start there because it's so fun.
Oh, yeah. And it's
But
goofy.
You really should build the appreciation first, because then it's so much more fun.
Right. Also, I'm going to go off the board and say that the Castle Shikigami games are not bad starting places. Because they are somewhat forgiving. They are not so mean to newcomers.
Yeah.
So it might be worth checking it. Just skip the story. The story is stupid.
They're on Steam.
Are they? Nice.
Yeah, for like $11, both of them.
Nice.
Or two of them anyway. There might be more than two. I don't know.
There's like 4.
But they are in that weird genre of you're actually a person flying around, not some weird kind of spaceship.
Yeah.
Which is where a lot of the Psycho shmups are as well. That kind of weird anime adjacent shmup space,
right?
Strangely enough, but I don't know what conclusion we've come to in this episode. I think
the conclusion is that we still like to randomly talk about shmups.
We do, yeah, and basically we're running out of ways. We're running out of ways to talk about them.
Oh, but we'll keep scraping that barrel.
I feel like at this point we've like worn through the bottom of the barrel. And we've decided that we're just going to start digging through the concrete ground beneath it.
We're going to form a new barrel.
We can get more blood out of this stone. Just give us more time. But yeah, it is very frustrating for how storied this genre is for it to be progressing in such tiny, tiny steps.
Yeah.
When I feel like everything else is so big and so bombastic and evolving so much.
Right.
And I'm sure there's probably a world of indie shmups out there that we're just unaware of, because there's a million billion games every day. And if you know of a kick-ass indie shmup that we haven't played that fixes any of these issues, please tell us about it.
And I've known people in the past who say that the logical extension of the shmup is to move into the space sim genre.
Oh,
I can't disagree with that more.
That's the opposite of a shmup.
Yeah.
What?
Because just because you are flying a plane in space does not mean that you're playing a shmup. Because what made the shmups fun, in my mind anyway, was that it is simple, arcadey, pick up and play.
It's the simplicity of it.
Yeah. It's just you're in a little ship and you're avoiding a bunch of bullets and go to town. And that was pretty much it. There wasn't all the complications and even things like Star Fox, which are more your rail shooters than your shmups, feel just slightly too complicated to fit into the shmup umbrella.
I feel like there's this immediacy that shmups provide.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's I feel like more so today, it's refreshing to pick up a game and instantly be able to understand what is happening.
Yeah.
I'm this magical girl, spaceship,
right.
dog, person, penguin, whatever.
Right.
And I need to shoot these things.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's all I have to know. I don't need to know anything else. I don't even really need to super understand all the power-ups and bombs and shit.
Right.
I could just kind of press buttons. Like, how many times... I don't know if you do this, because I know you tend to do your research more than I do.
A little.
Which is to say that you do any amount of research.
Yeah.
But when I play shmups, sometimes ones that I don't... I'll play shmup and not even know if there are bombs, and as soon as I get in a tight spot, I just start mashing buttons to see if I have a bomb, because I don't even know.
And sometimes
because I didn't need to know that.
And sometimes you'll spend a whole week playing a shmup, and it's not until you and I start recording an episode on it that you realize that you could have charged your beam the entire time.
I don't know why you have to sandbag me live on the show. What game was that I was like, you can charge? I've been playing with a turbo controller. I didn't fucking know.
I don't remember which one it was.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
I think it was R-Type, maybe?
Oh yeah. It was R-Type. And I was like, this game is so hard.
There's even a charge bar at the bottom of the screen to show you how charged you are.
Yeah, but how do they indicate that? Does it say charge next to it?
No, it's just a giant bar.
Well, see, how was I supposed to know what it did then?
Probably because it flickered every time that you started firing.
It's a shmup. Everything flickers. I don't fucking know. It's a spaceship. I just assume I don't know how it works. Oh, God. So go play shmups. They're fun. They're a good time. And you can also go to our Patreon at patreon.com.
That was the weakest segue you've ever had.
/retro war. It's late and I'm tired. I'm so tired.
It's late and you just learned that you could charge your shot in R-Type.
Patreon.com/Retro Warriors, where you can hear more of us talking. There's a lot of that there. And if you like hearing us talk, then we do it more there than here.
No, not more. Just you have more access to it.
No, there's more talking there.
No, it's really Justin never stops talking at all, ever. Just you get more recordings of it this way.
Yeah, occasionally they put the microphone in front of me more often. Courtney was talking to me and she goes, sometimes I think it'd be fun to do a podcast with you, but I don't know what I'd talk about. And I was like, well, I'm like the fixer. I'm the guy they bring in when they need someone to fill the hour.
Right.
I don't have anything meaningful or smart to say, but I'll fill the hour. You bet your money I'll fill the hour.
Sometimes I think back to when we very first started, 1,000 years ago, and Andrew had first pitched the idea of doing a podcast to us.
Yeah.
And I imagine what it would have been like if it had just been me and Andrew and you weren't there. It would have just been the two of us like, that's pretty good too. Yeah.
I guess that's everything
that's all
that there is to talk about.
And it makes me realize that you carry the show not always in any specific topic or content or whatever.
Not in any informative or educative way.
But always in the driving. You are the driving force that keeps you keep the pedal all the way down the entire time. And even when
I only got one speed,
right? Even when you stop talking, your talking encourages me to keep talking.
Yeah. Well, you've got the content in you, Saturn.
Somewhere.
You just need someone to annoy it out of you.
Yeah, someone to squish it out.
Anyway, we want to thank the following patrons for their kind donations, starting with Eric G.
And Leo Labato.
George McBain.
Sharp Cheddar.
Nick M.
Grady Haynes.
Danny Spiteri.
Ivan Cervantes.
Gold Leader.
And King Vidiot.
Are all the patrons we want to thank for listening to whatever this was.
And their kind donations.
If you liked this weird topic, tell us, because we don't know what we're doing.
But we'll do it again.
It sounds like such a threat. We don't know what we're doing, but we'll do it again.
We'll fucking do it again.
We killed and we'll kill again.
We killed an hour, Justin.
Anyway, thank you so much for listening. We'll be back next week. And as always, let us cling together.